I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ask for a moment of silence, please. Okay, something I think I forgot to do, make sure everybody checks their phone. I'm always talking about it, and I hate for mine to be going off.
Oh, I love that.
I want to be able to shut Doug up.
Probably not.
Okay, start with roll call. Today we're going to start with Commissioner Stephen.
Here.
Mr. Culverson.
Here.
Mr. Cos.
Here.
I'm here. Commissioner Smith.
Here.
All right. I don't think we have anything for public comment. Maybe that's something at the end, but administrative business. A couple of things. LCDC is having their VIP get together. I think it's on November 4th, and I was wondering, I'll be attending. Is anybody else going to be attending?
I have another commitment
Okay.
on the 4th.
I think Mark's going.
I'm not attending.
Okay, I just wanted to see if there's three or not.
No.
Okay, and then how about the Veterans Day Parade? We haven't talked about that. Have y'all signed up, or we're going to do anything? Or last time, Jeff nearly killed me in the truck, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Is anybody? You want to talk about it later? Or?
It's on
Yeah.
Friday this year, I believe.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
coming up, isn't it?
Yeah, it's coming up.
I hadn't
I
thought
know we had
about
a
it.
vehicle or something we all ride together. Or
Yeah, I can drive my truck again.
I can't sit in the back.
You can sit in the front.
I don't want to push big guys.
On the-
Yeah,
Or I
Sit
can
on the
use-
roof.
Or I can
Weather's
use the
hey,
vehicle
the
like we
weather's
did
supposed to be
before.
nice.
it is. Yeah, it is. Okay, why don't we get together? I wouldn't plan on doing that, but let everybody know we're going to do that.
Okay.
Mark, could you let folks know that we're going to be attending that?
I'm going to put it on the agenda that we'll be at the parade. Because we'll all be together.
Yeah. Okay. Mark, do you have anything?
I don't have anything today.
Any commissioner? Want to say anything before we move on?
We did get a nice letter from
I was
somebody
going. I
on
got that. I thought that was.
Jeanette Allison
Yes.
about the Council on Aging, and appreciate it and everything. It's good to hear that people are supportive of what we're doing.
People take the time to write those letters. They are
I
appreciated.
appreciate that.
Yeah. Anything else, Doug?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. Consent agenda. Any item on the consent agenda needs to be pulled?
Oh, I did have one more
Wait a
thing. I'm
second.
sorry. I just
Retreat.
wanted to recognize the Guidance Center for getting that $4 million grant
Yes.
award. That's huge.
It is very huge.
And along with that, I mean, last week there was an announcement about Kansas being the worst in the United
Yeah.
States
I
on
saw
funding
that.
mental health. So I thought that the timing for that grant was great.
There's something, yeah, that's something we need to begin to look at, figure out how as
money
a
for
county that
mental
we
health,
can
yeah.
address.
Yeah. It's good
Well,
stuff.
yeah.
That's not
We
a
got
good report.
We got to crawl over 49 other states to get to where we need to be.
Yeah, I already made a couple of phone calls because I think that's not someplace I want to be. And the way I found about it was from my grandson, who's a junior in high school, and he's concerned about it. So I'm really happy to hear that our high school students are reacting to that issue and how it is impacting our state. And, you know, he considered it to be an embarrassment to our state. So,
Well, it was on the news, and I was kind of shocked, too, when they gave the
I
numbers.
saw that.
and he was very upset because he really did not like hearing that.
Something
That's all
y'all-
I got, Mr. Chairman.
Something y'all can work on. Again, any agenda item need to be pulled.
Yes, I would like to pull item G, the letter of support, just for the purposes of discussion.
Okay, can I go ahead and make a motion for the rest of it, Jeff?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the consent agenda minus item G.
Second. Motion second. Any discussion before? Mr. Stephen?
Aye.
Mr. Culberson?
Aye.
Cos?
Aye.
I vote aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Okay, Vicki.
Okay, well, it's just, we had a request for a letter of support for the bicycle route 55 through Leavenworth County. And I just have some concerns regarding the route that has been selected. It goes through some not exactly our best roads. I mean, some of them have even been deemed to be, that we had grants because to put extra signage up because of the fact that they're not some of the safest routes, and there's no shoulders. And I realize that there's not going to be a lot of bicycles that would be using it, but are we endorsing, when we do this, are we obligating ourselves to making certain that we've made improvements to those road routes where there's sufficient shoulders? And I don't know. It's just a
I
question
agree
I
with
have.
Commissioner Cause on this. One of the routes is a road that we have received grant money for high-risk rural roads twice. We've got it for the signage, and now we got it for the shoulders, but it's only going to be for a couple miles, 3 miles of that road that's going to be improved. It's already been proven it's a high-risk rural road, and it's been twice, and we're still trying to get other grants to finish fixing it. And until we do, I don't feel like we should be adding another layer or another high-risk to a high-risk rural road.
So you went planning and zoning to reach out to them and see if they can change the route? Because I did that with a couple other bicycle
That's what I was going to ask you.
routes that we had, the gravel grinder and some other ones. So I reached out to the people sponsoring it and said, we just need to change the route, and they changed it.
And is there something that's more safe? I just question if this is the best route, if it's safe. We can't. Apparently there's no
We know
way
it's
to
a
use state
high-risk rural
roads.
road. It's obvious we know it's a high-risk rural
Right.
road.
I mean, we have state highways that have shoulders and things. I'm just.
The issue as to whether a road is a high-risk road or safe, which is not, quite frankly, a legal term, really should be left to engineers. You've got a public works director and a staff that would be qualified to look at the traffic that's on the road, the site distances, the physical characteristics of the road. And if a bicycle event or cycling event would be inappropriate, you could just either deny the application or suggest that it be rerouted to a more appropriate route.
And I don't think they're asking for it's not an application, it's just a letter of support. And should we.
Commissioners, what happened is this group reached out to our Public Works Department. In order to designate it, it has to have a letter of support for any of the counties that it goes through. Obviously, we're one of the counties. It's a north-south route from Canada to the south tip of Texas. These are extreme cyclists or something like that they're referred to as, because this is over a 2,000-mile route that people will be running. And this allows them to plug it into like a Google thing, and it GPSes so that as they're driving, it tells them where to go. I looked at the route. It's, to me, questionable. Obviously, I'm not an extreme cyclist. You can tell that. But they run it through downtown Florence, which seems strange to me if you were biking across the U.S. But they do these things. They lay them out. We can reach out to them and say we don't support the route that they've selected, and let them figure out what route may be better or not, or maybe they'll route it through different counties.
Mark, I might miss it. When was the date on the time that they do this?
I don't know that there was a specific time. They're just trying to get something done.
I think Jeff's
there's
point
like
is what
30. They estimate around 30 cyclists a year that might take this route. But I had David look at it for a liability standpoint. Yeah. There's no additional liability over any other motor vehicle using those roads. That doesn't mean that it's an ideal route. And if the board doesn't support it, it's not a problem for us. It was just a request on that.
I think Commissioner Cause's concern is a legitimate thing, but I also think Commissioner Culberson, for us to reach out and see if they can put that on a road that may be more favorable for us all to endorse. Does anybody have a problem with that, Mike?
I have a question. Does this affect funding, or what? Why do they need a letter of support?
Because they're designating a route across the United States, and it's going to be.
You said
it's going to be entered into a GPS system, so they want a letter of support
from every county
saying that we don't oppose it.
Yeah. No staff time, no zero, just the letter.
So,
yep.
I agree with Commissioner Culberson.
I have no problem just telling them we will provide a letter of support based on the route that they've
Or do our staff members in that department feel that is an ideal road to use for that purpose? Because once it's designated as such and it is put in the GPS, it also invites other people to consider that as a route to use for bicycling, and I want to make certain that what we have selected is something that is the most optimal, or that has been selected.
I don't think from a staff's perspective we would want to select a route for them. If they can find a route that's better for them, then that's what we'll do. But I don't want to get involved with selecting their route for them.
Would you, Mark, would you handle that, please?
Yep, sure will.
Commissioners okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't need a motion on that.
Do we need a motion?
Nope.
Just let it go. Okay. Thanks for bringing that up. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, next thing is formal board action. Consider a motion to approve the purchase of replacement radio equipment for the health department in an amount not to exceed $60,000. Good morning.
Morning, Commissioners. Before you is a RBA authorizing the health department to replace our radio system out. It's not the radio system itself, it's just the radios, handhelds, and mobiles that were purchased under the original transition over to the 800 system. A lot of that equipment is obviously getting old and hard to keep up on maintenance. We do have the ability to use the ELC grant funding for this project, so it would not cost the county any funding. It's completely reimbursable through the ELC grant. I'm asking the board to approve up through $60,000. The current is about $58,959 is the quotes. But again, when we get into programming and having to touch each and every radio, there may be some little expenditures that we don't know. So we got approval through the ELC grant up to $60,000, and that's what we're going to.
And there's no matching. This is just coming straight from
100%.
I can remember when we switched over those things years ago. Boy, time flies. Okay.
Been a while.
It was a job, that's for sure. Had to work some weekends.
Yeah.
So, I don't have any questions. Ready for a motion?
Jeff, Vicki, Mike, anybody? Okay, go ahead, Doug.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the purchase of the replacement radio equipment for the health department in the amount not to exceed $60,000.
Second.
Motion second. Any more discussion? Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
Mr. Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Cos?
Aye.
I'm voting aye. Commissioner Smith?
All right.
All right. Okay, presentation discussions, quarterly reports. Good morning again.
Good morning again. Commissioners, I'll start with the health department. This is third quarter report to you. You can see the budget laid out and grants received, statistics. As you can see, the health department's back in full swing. We're completely open in appointments. WIC is vaccine individuals back in the health department in person, which changed obviously through the COVID time period. So they're quite busy again with foot traffic. One of the big things that you've probably seen is November 7th and 8th is going to be the health assessments again for the county employees. We're getting sign-ups for those, and we should have a good health assessment again this year. That was something that, again, through COVID, we were having to put on the back burner and couldn't really do, but we're bringing that back. So currently there's about 140 some people signed up for those so far. Hopefully over the next 2 weeks, some more people will jump on board and get that done. It is through a third party. This is not the health department providing the assessment. The county doesn't have any. We don't retain any of the health records or any of the public health information. This goes directly back to the employee. It's more of a risk assessment for stroke, cardiovascular disease, things of that nature, osteoporosis. So it's a great assessment and something that we can do for our county employees. Over the last last quarter, school inspections were completed. That's a KSA that health officers for counties have to complete. So every public school K through 12 has to be inspected, and those all were completed. We did a vaccine audit through KDHE, and I'm proud to say there was no deficiencies in that category as well. That was a pretty large undertaking. That went through all sorts of records, and it touched about everything with our immunization program, from records of the degrees and the refrigerators to all of our backlogs clear back from when we first started even COVID vaccines. So we had to produce a lot of documents, and that was kudos to the staff on that. there was no deficiencies. And then the last is obviously the ELC grant that we just approved. The next item on the ELC grant that we'll be looking at after this to kind of finish that out will be replacing out all the conference room furniture that we used a lot of that obviously during the COVID time frame. And that was, for those that remember, when we took over and moved the EMS administration, we built a conference room out there. What we did is we purchased the furniture from Kansas State Extension and just left that furniture in there. So that furniture has been in there for quite some time. It's really time to get some of the chairs replaced. I'm tired of welding them in my house and bringing them back. So time to get some furniture back to where it needs to be in there. The last is just a COVID update. Obviously, COVID's still around. We're still monitoring it, and we're still providing vaccine. This week, we'll be receiving in our age 5 through 11 booster shots as well for those that are seeking that. So this Thursday from 9 to 4 o'clock, we'll be providing those boosters as well up through the adult boosters. So any questions that I can answer for Health Department?
I do have a couple questions. When you complete the school inspections, do you use guidelines from the state of Kansas? Do they issue guidelines for you guys? Or
it's very open. We use a lot of EPA guidelines, and it's up to each health office and health officer on what guidelines you want to use. There are some standards out there for health inspections amongst health departments, and we've used those, but a lot of what we use is very just minimum standards for health and safety and sanitation.
But the state of Kansas does not issue a
document. They've left it so vague. You can be very detailed about it and spend weeks in each school if you wanted to do that, or you can go in and do a health and safety inspection. Are toilets flushing? Or is there soap dispensers? Those type of things. Do you have playground equipment that has rust or broken plexiglass and things like that have been found, and those are the type of things that we're looking at. MSDS books.
Okay. You mentioned the COVID status, but what's the status of influenza in the state of Kansas this year? Is it going to be a harsh influenza season, or what's the?
That's always a crystal ball. You don't know until you start down that path. I can tell you in Kansas City right now, pediatric. I was just on a MARC emergency response webinar on last Friday. Children's Mercy is completely full with RSV and flu right at the moment, almost to the point where ambulances are being diverted from there because they can't take anymore. So RSV and influenza right now are the primaries, as well as some COVID in with children. So we're seeing that start up in this season, but we're not quite to the peak of
special
flu.
Time of the year.
It's flu season's coming. I can tell you we did go through all of our high dose, which is 65 and over influenza vaccines. Those are all gone. We gave all of those out already because we've seen a lot of people seeking the flu shot this year than we have in past years. So I think people are I'm not going to say scared, but a little bit more on the preparing side of things, just in case the influenza side gets to that extreme level. We've already are on the preparedness side, and we're not behind it. So.
Okay, one more. The CDC has been talking about adding the COVID-19 influenza vaccination to the schedule for the childhood immunizations. What's the status from Kansas? Have they sent information down to you yet, or nothing on that? Okay, thank you.
Just one question. Which type of influenza seems to be this year's A?
That's from what I'm hearing, that's what we're going to be dealing with.
Is that the one that got selected this time?
That's
Right back. No, that's good to hear. So good.
Yeah. So that's what we're hoping for. So. Okay. Same thing on the EMS side. You see budget and user fees, statistics. We're on track, basically moving forward. We're going to be basically on track with what we saw for call volume for 2021. We've really kind of bounced back from the 2020 and back into the 2021 and pre-COVID numbers. Page 3, again, is just more statistics. Excuse me. On page 4, I did add a geographical location, January through September, because I know, Commissioner Smith, you've asked a few times on numbers of what the call volume kind of was in Baser and, Fairmont and those types of things. That kind of helps, put it into perspective a little bit for you on where ambulances are responding to in geographical locations throughout the county. Item 3, vehicle maintenance. I want to knock on wood because that can always change very quickly on us. But vehicle maintenance is running right on par course for what we have in our fleet. Because again, we're still waiting on ambulance chassis and ambulances to come in. So that was a topic actually at the national conference that just happened last week of how bad the ambulance chassis backlog is and what's going on. For us, we do have 3 ambulances on order, and that really means that that's our 2022, 2023, and 2024 ambulance are on order, and hopefully by 2024, 2025, we'll have them all in. So we're monitoring that pretty hard, and hopefully ambulances get caught back up on chassis being available to be built. We're still about 3 EMT positions shy on replacement. We are on a recruitment right at the moment, looking for that, and there are some EMT classes getting ready to graduate here in December. So hopefully we'll be able to get 3 recruits back in there. Inventory control, that has been completed. We're just doing training now with all staff. That basically allows staff to go around the truck with QR code scanning and monitoring, so that way hopefully some of our inventory control and where things are is going to be a little bit tighter. We were present at the county fair during the third quarter. Medical protocols were finished and signed off, and we're doing transitional training this next quarter through all the staff. If you drive by out on 4th Street out in front of the old Walmart, you'll see ambulances killing cones out there where they're doing the SEVO training out there. We have a big emergency vehicle operation course for all staff. All staff's going through that. And then we participated in 2 mass casualty exercises, 1 in Lansing and 3 days up on Fort Leavenworth over the last quarter.
And who does the emergency vehicle coaching?
I'm sorry?
Who does the coaching for that or the training?
We have in-house certified instructors. So our operations manager and our training administrator are both. One does the didactic side and the other does the actual live side of it out with all the cones.
Great.
I have a question.
Yeah, Vicki.
On your calls, how are we doing? I mean, I know that for fairly certain, but drug overdoses, fentanyl, and how are our, I want to reassure people that our EMTs are fully equipped and understand the protocols for dealing with those types of overdoses, and how are we doing as a county?
One of the big, we've always carried Narcan. Narcan has always been a medication that's been on our trucks for years. The other side of Narcan is we have the ability to intubate someone, actually put a tube in or different airway air junks to be able to breathe for someone that may not be breathing or need assistance with breathing. So we are monitoring. We have seen an increase in overdose calls. So we're monitoring those. As of right now, we're not having any issues getting Narcan. So that's a plus. All ambulances still have that, and we have the ability to handle all of our overdose patients.
Good. And I know that there's been concerns that were expressed. I don't know if they're true or if they're correct with law enforcement and first responders and EMTs with physical contact with the fentanyl and the dangers associated with our responders. Are we?
There's been a number of training. We just actually this week we're doing training down with Baser PD. They're bringing Narcan for their actual officers and such. So they've partnered with us to do some training with them, and we're trying to work with with the resources we have to be able
Right.
to work with first responder groups. Now that we can do in-person training, some more training, that'll be some of the classes that we'll bring in, and we'll be able to bring in outside speakers as well to do some more training. And our first responders that are in the area, they're invited to come to those trainings as well.
Good. Thank you.
Great. Anything else, Jamie? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Jamie, I had a question. I'm sorry. The sheriff was in a few weeks ago, last month, about red light training for the volunteers in the fire department. Do you guys go through a similar training?
That's what the
does the
SIBO
SIBO
training-
cover that? I wondered.
Mhm.
You know,
That's what SIBO is.
And
That
the
is
news-
it's a multifaceted. It's everything from defensive driving to running with lights and sirens when not, how to park. It's a complete program, and then at the end of it, we actually do a test, and we send the test scores back into the company, and then they send certifications back.
I think you've seen in the news the last couple of weeks here where they've really been highlighting that accident that happened down in the Westport area where the fire truck ran the red light.
We
wanna make sure-
have been on the forefront of not running lights and sirens for years now. That has been one of the big things that, through triage of the call and such, people all, why didn't you run lights and sirens? Well, there's reasons when to run lights and sirens and when not to, and what the risk benefit is, and that's all part of that class as well. And the American Ambulance Association, as well as several, have actually put out position statements in regards to lights and sirens used in ambulances.
Yeah, let me ask you this. Years ago, showing my age, years ago, you couldn't run the safe would be covered. You couldn't run lights without the siren.
Correct.
That's still the way.
That's still the state law.
Okay,
Yeah. Not in all states, but in the state of Kansas, yes.
that's a good law to have.
I had one for him.
Okay,
Just Mr. Miller, say one of your ambulance had a catastrophic failure and was going to be down for a few months. Can you rent an ambulance, or can you?
You can. One of the things that I did talk with Mark about was because of the replacement time and everything else, we're actually going to, this next ambulance is not, but the one following it, we're going to hold back the trade-in.
Okay.
And the reason we're going to hold back that trade-in, we're not going to license it, we're not going to anything, but parts, pieces, and then it still is an active ambulance. So if something catastrophically does happen to it, God forbid, it totals it out or what, we would have the box, we would have an ambulance that could get us by just for that time period to where we could either get a replacement or use it until it fails as well. So we're going to hold back an additional unit. It's not going to be part of the fleet. We're not going to buy additional equipment or cots or all those type of things, but we're going to hold it back for the actual ambulance side of the equipment.
Yeah, the world's changed when it comes to parts availability.
Yeah, that plan has already been looked at.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I need an executive session.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board recess for a closed executive meeting for the discussion involving the legal interest of the county as justified by KSA 75-4319B2 for consultation with legal counsel for the board which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship, and that the board resume open session at 9:50 in the meeting room of the board. Present in the executive meeting will be Commissioners Jeff Culverson, Vicki Cause, Mike Smith, Doug Smith, and Mike Stevens, Senior County Counselor David Van Perries, and County Administrator Mark Lawford.
Second?
Second. Motion and a second. Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
Commissioner Culberson?
Aye.
Commissioner Cause?
Aye.
I vote aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
All right.
Let the record show that the board has returned to regular session at 9:50. No decisions were made, and the subject was limited to the legal interest of the county.
Okay. We want to put that on for November 30th.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll move that we put the issue of the Call Valley SUP and all issues related thereto on the agenda for November the 30th.
Second?
Motion and a second. Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
Commissioner Culberson?
Aye.
Commissioner Cause?
Aye.
I vote aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Okay. Public comment. Nancy Carpenter. I'm sorry. Good morning.
How's the weather down south?
Wes had ice on his windshield. If that says anything. Good morning. Nancy Carpenter, 14681 Kreider Road here in Bonner Springs. Or not here in Bonner Springs, down there in Bonner Springs. I assume that the briefing Mr. Van Peers provided you about the court's judgment on Kaw Valley's appeal was informative. We look forward to November 30th. I hope that however you proceed, it will be open to the scrutiny of and the comments from the citizens that you were elected to represent. Are you able to share anything else at this point?
No, ma'am.
There's a few things I'd like you to remember. The resolution that you adopted in July of 2020 was seriously flawed, so much so that the court vacated it, meaning Kaw Valley has no special use permit. The court made it clear that a county has wide latitude in what it requires of a business in order for that business to be allowed to operate within that county. As to the condition that Kaw Valley contested, that they bring the proposed haul route up to county standards, the court found that it was not clearly defined, making the resolution void. To the average observer, that means that the county entertains that before the county entertains an SUP application from Kaw Valley, all of the documents must be updated, checked for accuracy, and resubmitted. If Kaw Valley intends to reapply for an SUP, all the conditions must be adequately researched and spelled out in great detail. All costs associated with the new application must fall squarely on Kaw Valley, not the taxpayers. I personally do not want sand to be mined in southern Leavenworth County. That's pretty obvious. I find that placing a, quote, need for sand above the health, safety, and welfare of your citizens, I find that appalling. Just this morning, you showed such concern about the safety of bicycles on a route through Leavenworth County. There are no shoulders. It could be dangerous. Allowing hundreds of heavy trucks on a proposed haul route every weekday will put your citizens in harm's way. All the overlay, chip and seal, and pothole fills will not make that road safe if heavy truck traffic is added to the mix. There are no shoulders. There are steep drop-offs. The road is hilly with numerous curves. Drivers on this route know the dangers and typically proceed with caution. Why would you even consider adding more hazards to this road? If you want to allow Kaw Valley to mine sand in southern Leavenworth County, tell them they have to transport it from the area without jeopardizing the citizenry. Tell them they have to come up with a plan to do so. They could use trains to transport the sand, or they could build the infrastructure to support their industry in a way that does not adversely impact the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens. And make it very clear that even if they submit a plan, this BOCC may still well say no to their application for so many reasons. Kaw Valley is not a good fit for this county.
Thank you, ma'am. That was the only one we have. We have now Mike, I'm starting with you today.
What day was it? Saturday. We were at the Leavenworth Chamber of Commerce forum. Mr. Culberson and I were there to interact on some county issues, and it was good.
Is that all, Mike?
You got to show your video on the
bridge. Yeah. But we had 2 minutes, so we had to speed it up.
We split the time. We showed the whole video.
It's still fast forward when you do it like that. Anything else, Mike?
That's it.
We found out you can make it from Quick Trip to the airport in 2 minutes if you drive 127 miles an hour.
Just speed the video up.
Thank you for that comment.
Yeah, but not through Lansing. No, other than the forum that we attended Saturday morning, had the Mark Board of Directors meeting yesterday, where they talked about several issues. One big issue was child care. entering into one of the big topics for public support with taxpayer dollars. So I think you're going to hear about that a lot more in the future. You're probably getting into that with your workforce.
Yeah, a
So,
little bit.
that's it.
Vicki?
And Commissioner Culbertson and I did attend the
Kansas Association,
Kansas Association of
Conference.
Counties conference last week. And
Yep.
got lots of good information, and there's a lot of interest by other counties in the LAVTR and demand transfer issue. And I think that the Commissioner Culbertson did an excellent job. But we commandeered a meeting because there was no person there to do the.
Yeah, the commentator didn't show up.
So
we took it over.
Jeff took it over, and so we just did a whole little forum of the counties that were population over, 70,000, was it? Our urban counties, and we're the minority, by the way. And then last evening, I attended the City of Leavenworth meeting.
Thank you. Is that it?
Getting ready to go to the Kansas Transportation Authority meeting here this afternoon.
Thank you. I just had one. I had the opportunity to be a judge for the Council on Aging Halloween party. And let me tell you, some of those people can put on some good costume. One of the winners was a Wicked Witch of the West, and she actually had her dog dressed up. And they really put some time in this. But the whole event was enjoyable, and a lot of them want me to pass on to the county commissioners and everybody that's been part of the staff how excited they are about November 15th or somewhere around there moving into their new facility. But it was an excellent turnout. The place was packed what they had. That's all I have, Doug.
Well, let's have Bayshore tonight, and I think I got a groundbreaking or ribbon cutting in Bayshore this afternoon on new business. And we've got Fairmount tomorrow night. Zoom part of the board of directors meeting that Jeff was at yesterday. It was largely part on child care, but I had to Zoom out early. And not sure about JCAB tomorrow. So
We'll find out.
Yes, Doug.
That's it.
Thank you, sir. Mike.
I already started.
Oh, you
He
did?
started- he
Okay.
started again.
I was going around the corner.
Let's just keep going.
Morning, David, y'all have anything? Hey, can I get a motion to adjourn then?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
Commissioner Culbertson?
Aye.
Commissioner Collins?
Aye.
Vote aye. Commissioner Smith?
All right.
We are adjourned. Thank you, folks.